We're on.
We're on.
Okay.
Hey, guys.
No, I got it. I'm supposed to be introducing
All right.
episode 2, and I'm just cracking up over here.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you for listening. Welcome back for another episode. We appreciate you. If you haven't already heard episode 1, what are you doing? Get out of here. Get on episode 1. Learn about us.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to have to explain to them that I'm the super cool, smart one.
What's your name?
Oh, yeah. Which brings me to our next part, everybody. Your hosts. I'm Vanessa Tyler.
And I'm Sarah Austin. And this podcast sounds exhausting.
Sounds funny, too.
Yeah.
I'm cracking up and there hasn't even been a joke yet. Everybody's wondering.
Yeah.
What's so goddamn funny? Go listen to episode 1.
I'm going to tell you what's not so funny. Vanessa trying to drink this water right in this goddamn microphone like she's
I was going to hit mute. No one would see it.
She's recording an ASMR video. I am not here for it.
Okay. So, yeah, episode 1. If you haven't heard it, though, for real, you should go listen to it, especially if you're not friends or family, because that's how we're going to get started. We've, gotten our friends and family involved. And if you're not, you don't know about us. So go check it out. I think we're pretty interesting, or we're totally boring and lame and you want nothing to do with this. But the only way you're going to know is if you check out episode 1, our introduction, which, by the way, I thought went really well. Sarah threw a curveball in there in the middle of introduction. She's like, hey, I found some funny, interesting articles. One was about a guy getting swallowed by a whale.
Wow. How do you not want to talk about that?
People stealing a mummified head, and her obsession with corpses got brought up. So
I'm just,
I thought it went pretty good.
It did. It went really well. I'm excited about it. Yeah, it was good. And we talked a lot about what to expect in the future for the show.
Right. And speaking of the show itself, episode 1 goes into what it's really about. So we're going to skip right over that into this one and just talk to you about behind the scenes almost, right? Like how we came about, how we got to this point. Sarah was really excited about researching and looking up topics that have to do with it. And I do the same thing. Of course, we each have our own take, our own angle, if you will, that we come in on. But something came up pretty quick, which was that Sarah gets the feeling that we all get, that she's not qualified to have, a strong opinion, or more importantly, to inform people about things. So, for example, I said we should talk about abortion. It's very divisive. We should have a nice, well, not nice. We should have a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like civil, where you could play devil's advocate or Christian's advocate or whatever.
Right.
And you were like, oh, I don't know. I just don't feel like I should have.
Well, it wasn't that I didn't feel like I shouldn't have the conversation. It was, I didn't feel I was completely equipped to have the conversation just yet. I'm like, I need to know more. I have to know exactly what it is I'm going to talk about, even though I do have my own opinion on it. I do have strong feelings on it. It was almost like I need to know everything about it before I can, who the hell am I?
And then we realized you'll probably never get to that point, right? Where you feel like you know everything about it. Because then you
because I feel it feels like the more you know, the less you know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
And, a fucking light bulb went up between us. We were like, hey, we're talking about episode 2. We don't even realize it, which is, about these things have names where you feel like you're not equipped, or they have an opposite, right? They have an opposite thing where you feel like you know it all and you don't know shit about it.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what, let's go look up what that is. You'll cover the one that she's not, because I thought that would be fitting, and I'll cover the other. Yeah. And it'll really have its place in every episode moving forward about something everybody experiences. So
for sure.
Why don't you talk about yours first?
Yeah, I'm going to be, I'll just get right into it. Okay.
What is it?
I'm going to be
covering the side where people think they know shit and they don't, right?
Yeah. It's actually called the Dunning-Kruger effect. I had never heard of it. The first time I heard of it was watching the documentary, Behind the Curve on Netflix, which is really good. I think everybody should check it out.
Yeah, it was good. It's about flat earthers, right?
Yeah. Even if it's something you're not even if the topic doesn't seem like something you'd be interested in, it's such a well done documentary that I suggest everybody watch it. Behind the Curve on Netflix. Anyways, they used this word in there and it kind of just went over my head. I didn't think about it. The
doctors, not the flat earthers.
Yeah.
The doctors. Unaware that they're
educated.
Right? They're up their
Yes.
own ass, literally, aren't they?
Yeah, they're definitely an example of somebody with this Dunning-Kruger effect.
But you agree that they really believe what they believe. They aren't imposters, like what I'm going to cover, right? They don't sit there and say, I know the earth is round or a sphere, and I'm just going to say it's flat despite evidence. They really believe it.
They
and
absolutely
they kind of fall into confirmation bias, don't they? Because
they absolutely believe what it is that they're saying. So this story is going to start in 1995 in Pittsburgh. There was a 44-year-old man named MacArthur. That's his first name, MacArthur Wheeler.
1995 or 1955?
1995.
What a name.
MacArthur Wheeler, 44-year-old man in Pittsburgh. I don't have the exact date, but in one day he walked into two banks wearing no mask, no attempt to hide his identity whatsoever. In fact, he goes in and robs two banks in this day. He even goes as far as to look at the surveillance cameras, right at them, flash a smile, collect his money, and just walk out.
Yeah, finger guns to the camera?
No.
What about to the teller? Bitch, give me your money. Don't make me get the real one out.
Right. When he was arrested after the bank surveillance cameras were looked at by the police, MacArthur was completely shocked. He could not believe that he was being arrested. Why, you may ask? Because he thought he had rendered his face invisible, and he could not comprehend how anyone was able to. So you see, MacArthur, he had found out some way or seen some way that lemon juice is actually used in invisible ink. Have you ever seen invisible ink? I would always get it in like the spy kit things you could buy at the book fair.
Yeah, I've seen invisible ink where you don't see it and then suddenly you can see it.
Put
you see it and then it disappears, right?
There's that, or there's like, the invisible ink that you don't see it, but then you hold like a heat source to it and it appears.
Okay.
So there's lemon juice that's used in that invisible ink. And somehow MacArthur figured this out or read about it or saw it. And then he thought he had cracked like some sort of invisibility code because that morning he took lemon juice.
Found a kink in the Matrix, you guys.
Yeah. He took lemon juice and he smeared it all over his hands and his face.
Ugh.
He took a selfie with the Polaroid camera, and see, something must have been wrong with this film because it actually did produce a picture.
Okay.
That he's not.
I've never heard this story.
Listen, I'm serious.
No, I believe you, but listen, I wasn't thinking this guy's a jackass. He's a dumbass. I'm like, Sarah, he's going to use an example of just, a completely, a 2-year-old minded man. But now I kind of like him. So he's evidence-based is what you're saying.
Well, I mean, like,
picture. It just so happened that.
I mean, he did apparently go the whole day without looking at, like, I don't know, a mirror or his reflection.
Vampire, yeah. No
you know what I mean? Like, he kind of took this one defective.
Well, maybe a mirror isn't an example of what he wanted to be invisible to. Maybe he thought it was towards an electronic like a Polaroid. God bless the 90s, by the way, where that's how you took a selfie.
I know.
Fucking Polaroid pointed at your face.
Well, I mean, that picture kind of confirmed.
You have this Polaroid.
I don't. I know.
God damn it.
I know.
Must have got rid of it. He's like,
yeah,
evidence.
I think it's evidence. It's just a picture of nothing. Invisible man. Just nothing. But he had really like convinced it. He came up with this theory.
How old is this guy?
He's 44. And he was proven to have no mental illness.
Well, I didn't listen. I didn't say anything like that.
No, I'm just saying, like, when I was first reading, I'm like, something must be a little bit off.
Yeah, but in the 90s, were there mental illnesses, right? As Ellen said, people were just crazy. There were just crazy people, and then there weren't, right?
Well, no, because he had to... No, he
gullible?
Actually... No,
he's not gullible?
Well, I mean, he has Dunning-Kruger effect. That's my fucking story, Vanessa.
A synonym then if means basically the same thing?
I mean, he was just, I guess, not super bright.
Arrogant.
Pompous. Describe it. Pompous a little bit. Well,
this is the best story. You were absolutely right about this story being
I'm telling you. In fact, when the police arrested him and took him in and showed him the actual surveillance tapes, He was convinced. He insisted that they must be framing him or doctoring the video somehow.
God, it's perfect for my favorite meme, the Pikachu meme with the surprised face. My face when they showed me on security.
What?
Cool. We can post that now on our Instagram.
There you go. We'll make that. Yeah.
What's his name? MacArthur? MacArthur when the police showed him his security cam footage. That.
He
covered in lemon juice.
He simply could not accept that like what they were telling him was true. He did not do what he thought he was going to be able to do. Right. He could not accept that fact.
So after they showed him the footage, he still was in denial? Yeah, that's kind of Kruger, isn't it?
Yeah, he was absolutely in denial, saying, I did it, but there's no way that you have that surveillance of me. Okay. You had to have doctored that somehow because I had fucking lemon juice on me. How dare you?
These poor cops.
They're just like, give me a fucking break. So when social psychologists from Cornell University named David Dunning and Justin Kruger hear about this idiot, they want to study his case, right? And
we got to write this guy in jail.
They want to see how this guy could be so utterly confident in himself that he would rub lemon juice on his face and rob a bank without even thinking twice.
We should write him a letter.
That's the key.
Instructions about how to escape. It's just an invisible ink.
Well, the key component in this is really the confidence aspect.
Okay.
That he was so confident in himself and his...
You're saying that's what separates a run-of-the-mill idiot from a Dunning-Kruger effect person, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Their adamant belief that in whatever it is that you're presenting evidence to the contrary.
And wholeheartedly believing it with complete confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So in 1999, Dunning and Kruger conduct a study called Unskilled and Unaware of It: How Difficulties in Recognizing One's Own Incompetence Lead to Inflated Self-Assessments. They have this study published, I guess. Right? I don't know. I would have had to pay to read it, and I didn't want to do that. So
there's the cheap one, by the way. Frugal. We'll say frugal. You're not cheap.
Frugal broke bitch, and I was not going to pay the $9.99 to read this paper.
Unless it had free shipping, she would have been on top of it. Like, even though you don't need to ship it, even though she could have got it on her phone, I promise our listeners, if it would have said free shipping, should have been like,
well, that's a deal.
I can do it. Yeah, that's a deal. Or it said $9.99 crossed off $9.97 free shipping.
I kind of have to, like, they're just making me.
I can't walk away from this special.
Their study demonstrated that the less competent an individual is at a specific task, the more likely they are to inflate their self-appraised competence in relationship to that task. Meaning that without the self-awareness of metacognition, which is the awareness and understanding of one's own thought process, low ability people cannot objectively evaluate their competence or incompetence. So this phenomenon today is known as the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Right. Examples?
Well, first, it's important to note that this effect gets larger and larger the more unskilled one happens to be. So literally, the less that they know about something, the more and more inflation of this confidence and ego.
You mean if I Google my symptoms, I'm not smarter than my doctor?
You are not. Examples.
What about people who? Oh, you're about to give examples. Yeah. So I think I was about to step on your toes and think of one we haven't discussed previously, but holistic.
Oh, absolutely.
Fake doctors, right?
Yeah.
That's a good example. I didn't even think about that. Go ahead.
Climate deniers, flat earthers, anti-vaxxers, the president, YouTube conspiracy theorists. That one weird uncle or cousin we all have, bad singers on American Idol. That was a big one.
Yeah, that was a big one.
That was a big thing that a lot of like newer articles and studies have pointed to.
That's a good one.
These like the American Idol, X Factor, those kind of shows where you have those people that they're kind of there for like comic relief.
Sure.
But most of them, when you're seeing them,
they're there for us.
Well, and when you're seeing them be told no, and they're so absolutely
Or worse, Simon Cowell told them they're garbage.
Well, I mean,
No. I'm not saying, listen.
at some point, someone needs to fucking tell them.
I know.
Not that it would matter, because the more you tell them they suck at it,
right,
the more they're going to tell you how you're wrong.
What about their family and friends that told them they were great? Don't you feel like they're enablers?
Absolutely. But I also feel like this is why it is so hard to argue with people like this. It's hard to argue with flat earthers. It's hard to argue with anti-vaxxers, because it does not matter the amount of evidence or proof that you bring to them. Their confidence in their own self destroys anything that you have to say for them.
Yeah, you're right.
And they can't even see how ridiculous they look to the outside, right? Because they can't perceive how they are actually appearing to other people.
They have no self-awareness.
Absolutely no self-awareness.
Right. And when Sarah says argue, she doesn't mean she just, goes up to idiots and like argues in the sense of, yelling and bashing. She means you can't have an articulate dialogue with these people. You
Absolutely
can't
not
bring them to reason in any kind of debate at all.
No.
With any kind of compassionate approach or abrupt or otherwise, right? That's what you mean.
Dunning actually wrote another book in 2005. He wrote a book called Self-Insight: Roadblocks and Detours on the Path to Knowing Thyself. And in it, he has a quote that said, I thought it was pretty good. It says, "If you're incompetent, you can't know you're incompetent. The skills you need to produce a right answer are exactly the skills you need to recognize what a right answer is."
Yeah. You ever met anybody that you think had that? Not like on a Facebook encounter. I mean, really met somebody, maybe talked to them.
I feel like I've
worked with them.
Yeah, I was about to say, I feel like I've had some coworkers that I was like.
What about parents? Because you were at a daycare, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You're managing a daycare. You were the boss, and you would tell somebody something, and so you're a qualified individual at that point.
But I wonder if when it comes to parenting, if it's not like the actual Dunning-Kruger effect and more just blind.
Well, go ahead then with the coworkers, because I know what you're talking about. Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
My kid's perfect. Just shut up. Yeah.
Which I don't have that.
No,
I don't. No, I'm absolutely able to say when my kid's being a dick, or they've done something wrong and they need to be held accountable. You know what I mean? Like it always weirded me out, the parents that like cannot see two sides to it.
Sure. Yeah, I'll message you. How's the baby today? He's a monster. You'll be like, I love him, but today he's a monster.
He's just a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've had coworkers that it feels like no matter what you say or how you try to show them like a different approach or a different way of doing things. I can't think of like a real like concrete example. But I feel like we've all probably had those people.
Or our own moments.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where we are in denial.
But I think that's what separates the Dunning-Kruger effect from denial.
Like we eventually come around, or
exactly.
Like when I apologized for things I did 10 years ago, just happened to take 10 years for me to realize I was being an ass or being unreliable or not being a good friend or whatever it is, right? Or a bad employee, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think like I said, that big.
So is this permanent? So if somebody has Dunning-Kruger, they're probably doomed to always have it?
I don't see.
Like an endless loop.
Maybe there's some like a form of like therapy. Well, what's interesting is that a lot of stuff that I was reading, they were saying that the Dunning-Kruger effect, a lot of times you will see this go hand in hand with people that have narcissistic personality disorder.
Oh, like my ex.
Yes. So she probably has a Dunning-Kruger effect, which makes a lot of sense if you know even just a little bit about narcissistic personality disorder. That's
actually a good example. She was pretty good at math, and I asked her what 9 times 9 is, and she said 184. And I tried to convince her, you can't be good at math or teach math and think 9 times 9 is 184.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's like me. Like I always joke around like, oh, if I just say something confidently enough, like people will buy it. Right. And that was very much X.
You do that to me all the time. You take advantage of my trust.
Yeah.
Very confidently. And then I will tell someone in front of me, you idiot. And then I'll look it up and I'll be like, shit,
Oh, fuck.
Tara, why did you say it like that? You're just, I didn't have any idea. I just was very
I just wanted the conversation to be over or something.
Oh, thanks.
I wanted to be right.
Thank you.
But I think that's the difference in like doing little things like that and robbing a fucking bank because you put lemon juice on your face. There really is that distinct act of complete self-confidence that he had no self-doubt at all.
He had a genuine belief
that this was going to work.
Yeah. Genuine.
Yeah.
More than that, it was going to work. Genuine belief that they didn't have evidence, and if they showed it to him, then it was more likely that they doctored the video footage.
Than that he was wrong.
Right.
And that's where you see things like, you can, if you're more interested in this, I actually watched a lot of cool videos on YouTube about it today. If you just type in Dunning-Kruger effect, there's a cool like short TED talk. Sam Harris does some interesting things on it.
Oh, you're telling the listeners?
Yeah.
I forgot they were here. Sorry, guys. Because I was like, the video I sent you?
Right.
Okay, I'll go look it up again. No, the listeners. Duh.
Yeah, yeah. So in one of those videos, they were talking about how, like you said in the beginning, I WebMD'd it. I must know more than my doctor, right? So people with this Dunning-Kruger effect, when they look something up, say, something's telling them that they are having a heart attack, but really they just have a cold.
Anxiety.
Or anxiety, something. Because they have this Dunning-Kruger effect, it doesn't matter how their doctor approaches them. In their heads, it is more likely that their doctor is uninformed, doesn't know, is working for big pharma, has some other crazy reptilian overlord conspiracy theory. That is more likely than simply they are just wrong about their own symptoms, or they Googled it wrong, or some, what I mean? So that's, again, why it's so hard to argue these things with these people. And then you get a whole group of them together, like in this,
they just confirm
behind the curve. It's absolute confirmation bias.
Yeah, 100%. It's part of why our health insurance is so high. Not going to go off on that tangent right now, but it's because they will go and seek another doctor's opinion.
Yeah.
And they will go straight to the hospital, or they'll not take anybody's advice if unless it's telling them what they think they have or what they think
they've already self-diagnosed. So until they have somebody that will tell them exactly what it is that they're expecting to hear, those people are wrong. Right. Doesn't matter how many people, it could be 50 doctors saying, no, you really don't have this. You really are mistaken in this.
Right.
It wouldn't sway them.
Sure.
So that's the difference between you and I when we've been like, no, I will fucking die on this hill. Okay. And then we can get, each other to kind of come down off of it and see from the other side. If either of us had this Dunning-Kruger effect, that just absolutely wouldn't be the case. We probably wouldn't even, what's the word I'm looking for? We wouldn't even try to hear from your side.
Right.
Like, we wouldn't entertain the idea.
Respect it, consider it, be open to it, right? Like the guy did. He just, before he even saw the footage, I'm sure he was like, if they have this, it's going to be doctored.
Yeah, like there's he was completely shocked.
Right.
And it was such a big story and such an odd fucking weird story that, Dunning-Kruger when they heard it, it was just a couple years later that, they had all this study together.
Sure.
And like I said, I couldn't find too much about the exact study that they did, but there have been other studies done since then, where they would have, groups of people come in and do tests. Some tests were like academic tests, and then there was other portions of it, like humor portions, like whether or not you're funny and things like that.
Uh-oh.
So in just layman's terms, the stupidest, most unfunny people rated themselves the highest of anyone else.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they always picked that they were going to be.
Whereas funny people were significantly more conservative.
They were significantly more conservative in how they rated themselves because they could accurately see the entire picture, right? They knew how much they did know about the subject. Okay.
Right.
They were self-aware enough to know, like, okay, well, I know about 80% of this. So I'm going to say I'd be in the, top 20% of this test, and that's
Or
what
they knew 80 and they thought they only knew 60 because they
yeah,
might have imposter syndrome,
possibly.
which is what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Hey, you suffer from sometimes. I don't know
I
if you
do.
suffer. I think we suffer
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of it. Because then you just doubt yourself.
Yeah.
What did I say when you were saying like, oh, I can't do abortion because talk about abortion because I'm not qualified or whatever? And I told you, what do you? I say, well, I would go look it up and I would just present facts to you and you could completely evaluate them. Like you're not incapable of critical thinking and evaluating things. And you did kind of come around.
Yeah.
But I mean, did you really?
I mean, I did need like some coaching, and that's the same thing when we said we were going to do a podcast. I was so excited at first, and then a couple hours later when I'm sitting by myself and I'm like, who the fuck am I to be like talking about anything? Like, who gives a shit what I have to say about any of it?
I can't tell you how many times I say that when I'm talking about things.
Right.
Don't I say that to you anyway? When I say something very definitively in a sense, and then I just...
and then I Google it and you're wrong?
No. What about when I'm right? Because that happens equally.
Mm-hmm. And I give it to you.
You give it to me.
Yeah.
I'm tired. Going to bed.
Fine.
You're right.
Yeah. You're right.
Sarah, it's 5:00 in the afternoon. I've had a long day.
Yeah. For
I'm
real.
leaving. Bye. No, but you're such an ass.
I know.
Google it and I'm wrong. What's the scariest though? When I am very sure I'm right, but I don't actually know. And then you're Googling it. And then what's the best? When I am right. I'm like, cool.
Fuck yeah.
I'm not going to tell Sarah I wasn't sure.
Add another tally.
I'm just gonna
for the 5 times you've been right.
Yeah. By the way, 9 times 9 is 81, everybody, in case you're still stumped on that one.
I was. I couldn't tell you what 9 times 9 is.
You don't know that trick with your hands?
No, and stop. I'm 30 years old. If I haven't gotten it by now, it's never going to work.
That's fine. You have a calculator on your phone?
Yes.
You'll get by in life then, I think.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you. So tell me about this crippling self-doubt.
Are you sure? Did I segue? Did I transition too quickly?
Perfect.
What do you got?
No, that's it.
Well, I got a quote. You had a quote. I got one.
Okay.
What's your quote?
It's really long. You want me to read it again?
No. Well, what was it? What was the gist?
Basically the skills you need to produce a right answer. Oh, I'm done.
Go ahead.
No more? No, I'm good. What's your quote, Vanessa?
You're going to like mine better.
Okay.
Can I tell you about the person who made the quote first?
Why don't you tell me the quote first and then I'll guess who it is?
Tell you? No, you won't be able to guess it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. His name's Michael de Montaigne or something.
You're right. I would have never guessed that.
Thank you. He's a French philosopher. He was a philosopher during the French Renaissance. So we're talking late 1500s.
Okay.
Early 1600s, right? So, and they reference his quote for imposter syndrome because the quote is, kings and philosophers shit, and so do ladies. And thank you.
Okay.
I didn't know if you knew that, by the way.
No.
Kings, philosophers.
Oh, first I'm hearing of this.
And ladies. So imposter syndrome is it's a lot. But basically, the more self-aware you become, this is me putting it into my own words, by the way. So it's slightly arbitrary. I guess you could argue and give your own description, but fuck you, make your own podcast. Thank you. So basically you become so self-aware and you like we are, I think we are. Yeah. Like to a fault.
Yes.
Where we probably have imposter syndrome.
You're probably right.
Right. And you don't inflate your ego. You don't ignore your issues or flaws. You take them head on, or maybe you have anxiety and maybe you have insecurities and maybe you feed into them even worse.
Yeah.
Which is why a good support system is so important for people like that. But anyways, and self-awareness really is. Otherwise, you're just going to believe those intrusive thoughts, aren't you? That you're worthless, that you're...
Absolutely. If you don't have self-awareness and you also have anxiety, it will destroy you.
It's good. Yeah. That's why I think a lot of people with some type of mental illness are, going to be leaders one day. So anyways, it's basically saying that you learn all these things, and the more educated you become on something, the more knowledgeable you do, even in work. The more responsibilities you have, or the more successful you are there, the more and more like an imposter you feel like. You feel like people are on the verge of finding you out, because you're so aware of your flaws and everything.
Yeah.
And you don't, more importantly though, you don't see other people that way. The way you perceive others feeds into your imposter syndrome, because you'll see them in a positive light. You'll only see them performing their job admirably, being accountable if they make mistakes, overcoming those mistakes.
Right.
Or with social media nowadays, you'll see only what they want you to see with a filter. Right? How many, God, up until I broke up with the ex, our social media looked like we were very happy.
Yeah.
Some of my friends don't even know that she cheated on me and was a horrible person. They're still liking her shit on Instagram. They don't even know. That's how we sold it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's plenty of people like that.
Yeah.
So anyways, that perception does it. And there's actually some famous people who have felt the same way. One of them, your favorite, David Bowie. He's quoted as saying, I had enormous, David Bowie, by the way, guys. If you don't know who that is, look that up. Sarah's like obsessed with
Vanessa,
him.
you don't have to tell. They know who the fuck David Bowie is.
I didn't.
Oh my God.
So.
All right. What's his quote?
I had enormous self-image problems and very low self-esteem. Now, I'm not saying before today I didn't know him.
No, I know.
I'm saying like a long time ago when you brought him up. I was like,
get
okay, whatever. I didn't barely know who Marilyn Manson was when you told me about him.
Yeah.
All right, David Bowie. I had enormous self-image problems and very low self-esteem, which I hid behind obsessive writing and performing. I was driven to get through life very quickly. I really felt so utterly inadequate. I thought the work was the only thing of value. So his work.
Yeah.
He's
that, man.
I according to the quote, he was specifically talking about imposter syndrome. And then another person a lot of people know that I like is Tina Fey. She admitted that she's often felt like a fraud. And she said, however, the beauty of imposter syndrome is you facilitate between extreme egomania, so feeling really good about yourself, etc., and a complete feeling of I'm a fraud. Oh God, they're on to me. I'm a fraud. So you just try to ride the egomania when it comes and enjoy it, and then slide through the idea of fraud, right? So become self-aware of it and just,
understand more as why you're thinking that way and what's happening.
Yeah, process through it.
Yeah.
So from everything I read about, the only way to, not the only way, but the best way to deal with imposter syndrome, believe it or not, is to talk about it. Because the more you know about how imposter syndrome works, how it starts and all that, you'll realize why talking about it is so important. So I watched a video on YouTube, The School of Life. It's a great channel to learn shit about. Very ASMR, because the guy is very monotone, soft-spoken, beautiful accent. You'll fall asleep. You'll learn something. It's great. Or if you're a freak, you're masturbate, whatever. Listen. With people in ASMR, listen to me.
I love ASMR.
And you're the freak, so that confirms my bias. Thank you.
But I still don't want you to chew by the microphone because I'll fucking die. I also have misophonia, so I can't listen to
people. What the fuck is that?
It's that thing of when you hear people chew or swallow, it literally feels like someone's putting like a drill in your ear. Like it physically hurts to hear people chewing and like in my ear. I can't.
Yeah, you did punch me when I visited you and chewed gum. I remember.
Yeah, I can't. I'll make my kids go spit it out. Can't stand it.
The moment they get any sort of obnoxious with it,
you're
done.
Yep.
No gum.
Go throw it away. Spit it out. We're done. And you know what's weird? My mom was the same exact way.
Yeah, that's not weird.
My mom constantly
apple doesn't fall far from the tree, right?
But my mom also has like a click in her jaw when she eats. It's the worst.
Oh, listen to it. She can hear that.
Yeah, it's like
probably hates it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
The worst.
So on this video, they kind of explain where it begins, and it does begin where all problems in our lives begin, Sarah. Childhood.
Yeah.
And to understand it better, you have to have an understanding of reality versus your personal reality. Do you understand? You're always seeing reality, the world, everything through your eyes only, through your thoughts only. And it's two different realities in a regard, what you see and how you perceive it, because perception really is everything when it comes to, and we're getting into areas of science that are way out
this is
there.
like what I was talking about, metacognition, the awareness and understanding of one's own thought process.
Right. But more in imposter syndrome, it's where it flourishes is more about our unawareness of others' thought process.
Okay.
So what I'm getting at is you're constantly in your own head, literally. You're constantly, you're only able to perceive the world from your perception. When you try to learn from someone else's perception, it's still your perception processing that. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you never really can truly understand what someone else is going through. You can only try, which is the admirable thing to do. So anyways, it starts in childhood because we have our own reality in our head. We're born where adults are already adults, and hopefully they're relatively mature and well-rounded.
Yeah.
And you can't imagine your mother or father as a child being children, jumping around, right? You're jumping on the couch, doing childish things while the adults sit in the dining room table drinking alcohol, which to us as children tastes disgusting, and just talking for hours.
Yeah.
Like on their own podcast.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And so you have a skewed perception at that point. And so anyways, you eventually grow up in that same concept where you couldn't picture your mother or father as a child because you just never saw them that way.
Right.
You can never picture other people who are successful or work alongside you, your friends, your family, whoever it is, as being just as insecure and flawed and quirky. And a new word that I learned in this list is, God, I'm probably going to say it wrong, but gauche, Gauche. It means lacking ease or grace, unsophisticated and socially awkward. Me. Right. So, so you just don't think people are just as much as you are.
Yeah.
So, which brings me back. The more you understand about why or how it comes to be, how it gets worse, imposter syndrome, you'll realize that talking to other people is the best way to overcome it. To not let
talking about imposter syndrome specifically.
Well, talking about their insecurities, their flaws, their thought process, like his quote, right? We don't think about the fact that other people shit, that they do the same thing we do. Like everybody poops, yet we're so insecure about us pooping around people. Or doing anything that everybody fucking does.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They had some other weird ones in there, like gross shit, like fantasizing about family members sexually. I thought that was pretty gross. But I mean,
does everybody do that? Because I don't.
I mean, the closest I got was being scared my dead relative was like watching me doing something, or you know, but definitely not that. But I guess maybe he was in more of a intrusive thought regard, and he just didn't clarify that. But I mean, I'm sure we all have some pretty awkward,
horrible thoughts.
You have a horrible thought and you're just like, what the fuck? Who's that?
Why am I thinking of this? Yes, all the time.
Horrible thought. Yeah. So imposter syndrome will subsequently happen to people who are more self-aware, more educated. Albert Einstein, Neil deGrasse Tyson, people that are experts in their areas don't feel like they're experts.
Yeah, that's interesting because that's what the husband was talking about, like in his field, doing like tech and things like that. There's so much you need to know, and there's always new like languages and different, programs and all these things that are coming out that you constantly have to be aware of and learning. Right. And the more you learn, the more it feels like you don't know what the fuck you're doing, even though you're absolutely qualified in what you're doing, because there's always more to learn. It feels like you've never mastered your craft. You know what I mean? Like, so you do feel like you're kind of this imposter in this, like, how did I get this far? What the hell am I doing?
Right. They're going to find me out.
Yeah. They're going to figure it out sooner or later that I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I thought about it when they was talking about perception as percentages, like 80% of the time we're being, the more self-aware and more I'd say you are about bettering yourself. Okay. So being self-aware for that purpose, 70 to 80% of your thought time is criticizing or evaluating. And right.
Yeah.
That could be hard. Can you imagine if somebody was criticizing you 70% of the day? You know what I mean? because we do it to ourselves.
Yeah, I was about to say someone other than myself.
Yeah, that would be rough, wouldn't it? So
Yeah.
it's probably rough to deal with if you're doing it to yourself constantly. You know what
Yeah. I know. I think I
I-
saw like a quote or something that was like, if someone else talked to you the way that you talk to yourself, how
would
would
you
you
feel?
respond?
Right.
You know, like how would you
So profound. You saw it on Facebook?
Pretty sure. It's like
Yeah.
one of those inspirational quotes.
Oh, you were touched. Did you heart it?
Live, laugh, love type
Did you
thing.
share it?
I did not. But it did stick in my head.
Okay.
You know, so it must have rang a little bit true for myself for
Sure.
it to stay there.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I think what you also do is you'll get to the point where you're not about that and you're just like, I need a break, and you'll just do whatever it is that you want to do, and not because you do a lot of things that 90% of the time you do actually, you beat yourself up for it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you even have to do it and beat yourself up for it, for what you're doing, lounging, relaxing, whatever it is, that's your time to do it.
Yeah.
Even then you still feel like shit though, but you're literally trying to do it to just not think or feel that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I've also done things that I'm like really proud of that I didn't want to share with anyone because I didn't feel like it was actually worth, like I had started to doubt whether or not I should even be proud of something that I had done.
Well, that's because you're a perfectionist. So there's 5 different types of imposter syndrome that I could find. And I wrote in parentheses, Sarah's probably number 1, probably number 3. So number 1 is the perfectionist. Perfectionism and imposter syndrome often go hand in hand. Think about it. Perfectionists set excessively high goals for themselves, and when they fail to reach a goal, they experience major self-doubt and worry about measuring up. Whether they realize it or not, this group can also be control freaks.
Well, that's for damn sure.
Yes. Feeling like if they want something done right, they have to do it themselves.
Yes.
I think that's why you are the way that you are with those, in that regard anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It says, when you miss the insanely high mark on something, do you accuse yourself of not being cut out for your job and bother yourself about it for days on days? Yes. Yeah, you're a perfectionist. The other type, number 2, is a superwoman/man. Since people who experience this phenomenon are convinced they're phonies, the phenomenon being imposter syndrome, they're convinced they're phonies amongst real deal colleagues, they often push themselves to work harder and harder to measure up. But this is just a false cover up for their insecurities. So they work harder and harder, but they never alleviate this imposter feeling that they're an imposter, right?
Yeah.
But this is just a false cover up for their insecurities, and the work overload may harm not only their own mental health, but also their relationships with others. So that's number 2. Number 3, the natural genius. Some doctor said people with this competence type believe they need to be a natural genius. As such, they judge their competence based ease and speed as opposed to their efforts. In other words, if they take a long time to master something, they feel shame. Less than. These type of imposters set their internal bar impossibly high, just like perfectionists.
Yeah.
But natural genius types don't just judge themselves based on ridiculous expectations. They also judge themselves based on getting things right on the first try. When they're not able to do something quickly or fluently, their alarm sounds. They get frustrated, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
While other people are like, don't be frustrated. It was your first attempt.
Yeah, you just got to keep trying.
Yeah, exactly. Type number 4, the soloist. Sufferers who feel as though asking for help reveals their phoniness are what Dr. Young calls soloist. It's okay to be independent, but not to the extent that you refuse assistance so that you can prove your worth. I don't really identify with that one at all.
Yeah.
Right? I don't need anyone's help kind of thing.
Right.
Where you feel worse if you need someone's help.
No.
Finally, the last one, number 5, is the expert imposter. So experts measure their competence based on what and how much they know or can do, believing they will never know enough. They fear being exposed as inexperienced or unknowledgeable. They shy away from applying for a job posting unless they meet every single educational requirement, for example. Or they're constantly seeking out training or certifications because they think they need to improve their skills in order to succeed.
Yeah.
So that's number 5, the expert. So they feel like they have to be an expert or not at all.
Yeah.
Like not.
I know people like that.
Not engaged with it.
Yeah.
Oh, you do?
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, you.
No.
Oh.
Me.
Well,
actually, you know what? Yeah, maybe I do relate with that a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, I had this weird thought this morning.
Go ahead.
I knew we were going to be talking about these topics today. And for some reason, yes.
We did this all organically. We know these
We
things.
just knew this right off the top of our head.
No, go ahead.
I had this weird memory come up because when I was younger, like 13, 14, I really thought someday I was
Which was 10 years ago.
Not that long ago. Even before then, I really thought I was like gonna be famous for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wasn't doing anything to make myself famous. I just thought at some point, like gradually, that's just where my life would be. And I remember thinking,
I always thought you'd be a cult leader, but go ahead.
well, that's still famous.
Well, you'll take it? Is that what you're saying?
Let
me tell you, you were a cult leader in training.
I have no interest in fame now as an adult. But when I was young, there was something about all of that attention that was very...
no interest in fame? Go ahead.
I don't think so. Not fame on the scale that like I want to be like a fucking rock star or a model or something like I did back then. You know what I mean? And I remember thinking to myself, like, what would I like buy? You know, I'd have all this like disposable income. What would I buy? And I remember thinking to myself, I would pay people who knew everything about something I wanted to know about. Like, I really liked comic books, right? But I couldn't just drive myself to a comic book store and buy, 50 issues of a comic that I wanted to get into and read them all and know everything about it. And so I had these very specific thoughts back then of, well, when I become famous, I'm going to pay somebody to come over and teach me everything there is to know about that. And it applied to so many things growing up.
Just so everyone knows, this is before the internet where she could just Google everything.
Yeah, I really am that old. Like,
why don't you just think of the internet, Sarah?
Like, there wasn't search engines when I was like, was like AOL, but it was not the same.
We weren't aware that that's what it was going to be utilized for, though, were we?
No.
The sharing of information. It was fucking ASL, lie your ass off, cybersex. That's all it was used for.
All the AIM chat rooms. Yeah.
Remember you did MapQuest where you wanted to go?
And print it out.
I drove us everywhere. But remember when I had to print out places to go?
And if you didn't have printer ink, you just had to like copy.
Remember how much of a disaster it was when I didn't and I had to depend on you for directions and we got lost in the desert?
Oh, I'm horrible with directions. I'll never get us to where we're going. GPS is like the greatest thing that was ever invented for me. But I feel like that imposter syndrome has gone all the way back to as a kid, where I thought I can't even say that I like this until I know everything about it. You know what I mean? Like, I can't say that I like Harley Quinn in the
You're not worthy, is what you're saying.
Right.
Got it.
But what else just came to me is that was very much in the time of like, you remember the word poser?
Mm-hmm.
Like, everybody was a fucking poser.
Except you. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Like, I had a Ramones hoodie, right?
Go on.
When I bought the fucking Ramones hoodie, okay?
Go ahead.
I was like 12 or 13. I got it at Hot Topic. I knew that I always saw punk kids in Ramones stuff, okay? And I wanted to be a punk kid. That's what I wanted to be. So when I saw it at Hot Topic and I had the money for it, I bought it, okay? And what is the first fucking thing that somebody said to me when I went to school? What's your favorite
song?
What's your favorite Ramones song? I didn't know you listened to them. And I'm like, oh my God. I don't know anything about this. So I literally had my mom.
Never wanted to feel that way again.
Never wanted to feel like that again. I hated that feeling. But, it's interesting that now as an adult, I'm okay with not knowing like every single part of something. I feel like that has kind of subsided a little bit. You know what I mean? That I don't need to know in order to just like something. I don't have to know like the ins and outs of every single part of it.
Sure. So it sounds like you had to have one extreme or the other, right? Because one extreme for imposter syndrome would be, or something along those lines, is just, knowing enough to lie your ass off, not actually knowing it. And you actually are actively being an imposter.
Yeah.
Because you want to be perceived as a certain way, whether you want your marriage to be perceived that way. So you orchestrate your Facebook and Instagram to emulate that, right?
Yep.
Or you want your education to be like that, right?
Yeah.
So not a lot of people that I work with. So first of all, a lot of people that I work with are engaged at work in a professional atmosphere. Here's the questions they ask. Were you in the military? Were you in law enforcement? And what did you go to college for? They have no idea that I have no military experience and I'm actually a high school dropout.
Yeah.
That I don't have that. It's all self-taught stuff. It's not imposter stuff. I don't just look up an excerpt and then try to pass off.
Right.
But I think that people can do that because I did it. Right. I went and learned and self-taught myself. So someone could go and pose as this. You know, I was friends with somebody in my past who's no longer around, so I'm not worried about talking about them. They butt dialed me. And they were at work with their coworkers. They work in an educational field.
Okay.
And so I heard a conversation in the bathroom with a coworker. And this person that I used to know was telling this coworker how they were in college and how they had to stop going. They had to stop pursuing their degree because there was an issue with the money side of it. What's that called? Student loans, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Completely fabricated story. No truth to it at all.
You knew 100%. There was
I know this person.
Yeah.
I lived with this person.
Right.
And me being the person I am, let's see if you know me. How did I respond to that? Did I completely ignore it, pretend I didn't listen to it, just hung up the phone? B, went down to that place and stormed in the bathroom, called this person out in front of their peers. Or C, sat them down and said, listen, don't be embarrassed, but why do you feel like you need to do that?
I'm going to hope it was C.
No, absolutely it was C.
Okay.
In retrospect, you would say she's deserved B, but
yeah,
C
I think I know who we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But she still does that job, so I don't want to go further. So anyways, C is exactly what I did. And she didn't want any part of that conversation. She wasn't in the mood to learn or anything. It was really like I had discovered a secret. She was going to say what she needed to say.
What was the excuse for doing it?
What she told me. But here's how I fucked that up. I was not on guard about this person's going to lie and try to pass a lie. I was just trying to help and empathize.
Yeah.
Right. So she said what I said and using other words.
Okay.
Because I led into it with, I know you want people to respect you there because you're younger, and I know that you want people to see you a certain way, but you don't have to do these things. You don't have to have college experience to be smart. People think I'm in the military all the time. I don't sit there and steal valor.
Yeah.
Right. I say, actually, no. I mean, I can tell them I'm paramilitary from the law enforcement stuff, but I don't. Right. I don't let them think I'm a police officer either, because I wasn't. I worked at a jail. You're not post certified. You're a civilian officer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I get it.
So I tried to talk to her about that, and she seemed to just regurgitate what I said and dismiss it. But that's what I'm saying. She was clearly uncomfortable by the conversation.
It was embarrassment or ignorance?
Neither. It was exposure. She's not used to that.
Right.
People don't call her out on her shit.
Right.
And that's why we didn't work very well.
Yeah.
But that's what I do. That's what I do.
Yeah.
But I didn't call her out like, being an asshole. I tried to benefit of the doubt. And why are you doing that?
No.
But don't we all do that?
Yes.
On Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff.
Yeah.
She liked to post a lot of stuff. So I'm tagged in a lot of stuff, but I personally don't like it too much.
Yeah.
I don't like doing it because I truly feel like an imposter when I do that. Not imposter syndrome.
Right.
Like I feel like a legitimate imposter. Like I don't want to do that because it's just, I feel bad because I feel like there's real people out there that would see that and it'll just further their imposter syndrome or their sense of loneliness or their sense of inadequacy. Thank you. Yeah. They'll further that because they'll see somebody that's doing that. And that's just not.
Well, that brings up another.
That's why nobody likes me on Facebook. I'm serious. That's why I am thoroughly surprised with people who do not share my beliefs or further beyond that, who have the opposite of my beliefs, like my stepmom or somebody.
Right.
And I see them liking my stuff because they like your stuff. They're either checking out your timeline or they haven't unfollowed you to see it.
Yeah.
And I'm like thoroughly impressed by these people. Some of these people I want to judge because I see what they're all about. And I think I just want to judge them. But I
Yeah.
can't because I'm like, you know what? The fact that you haven't unfollowed me is incredible.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think it plays a lot into this other phenomena that I heard of recently called FOMO. Have you heard of this?
Yeah.
FOMO.
It's no homo FOMO. Go ahead. No.
It's the fear of missing out. And it's like a legitimate psychiatric phenomenon going on right now. It's purely driven by things like Instagram, Facebook, everything that you're talking about right now. The more you see other people doing things, achieving things, looking a certain way, presenting themselves as happy and having all of their shit together, you have this fear of missing out on what they're doing, how they're doing it. And so if you start to emulate how they're doing it, maybe you will then have it,
Right.
but they're using a lot of the FOMO stuff as like marketing things now. Like think about the Fire Festival. I think they even
Yeah.
talked about it on that docuseries
Good point.
where they were all of those like viral marketing ad things that they had leading up to you being able to buy tickets for that event was all very fear of missing out driven, right? It's showing you everybody's going to be doing this, all of your friends, the
Right.
best people and the best things and the best food, the best music, blah,
Right.
blah,
Because
blah,
they
blah.
had influencers
Yeah.
promote it.
Yeah.
Where it all
So
started.
how could, like, you can't possibly miss out on this.
Mm-hmm.
And then you think about it more in your Instagram.
First of all, I absolutely could miss out on that. I don't
Yeah,
care.
fuck all that. I have no interest.
Yeah, thank you.
Unless it's an island full of pigs, I don't
I
need
don't give a
to be
shit.
anywhere
Yeah,
near
but I
it.
don't need a fire. What are you talking about? A bunch of fucking white rich kids getting drunk? No, thank you. Who wants to
Yeah.
do that?
No, well, it all failed spectacularly. So.
God bless it too. Loved that documentary. I was like, let me get my drink.
I
And then I started
know.
feeling bad for him, and I'm like, what are you doing?
No,
Dude,
I
they
know.
asked for this.
You do get some empathy for them,
Yeah.
right? Because
I'm empathetic.
the bottom line is we have been conditioned. They were conditioned to feel like they could not miss out on that. And so I think it applies to a lot of things as far as our social medias go. When you're constantly being presented with this false sense of happiness and superiority and financial gain and things that aren't,
Artificial happiness.
yeah. But then I am so empathetic that I think, well, maybe those people really are happy.
Listen, everybody I call stupid and all these things, there is also a huge part of me that actually feels sorry for them.
Mhm.
But only for the ones who I think are like Dunning-Kruger. They don't know any better. They're so unself-aware.
They're so stupid.
Stuck in their
Just
own
don't
ass.
fucking get
Literally.
it.
They're so stubborn and narrow-minded and stupid. They don't know any better.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously this excludes people hurting children or hurting victims or doing
That
things
goes
like
without
that.
saying. If we have to clarify the fact that we're not talking about fucking murderers or rapists or pedophiles, come on, guys.
Come on, stop listening, idiot.
Yeah, obviously, we're not,
We're the worst podcast hosts. We've called our listeners idiots.
Yeah, fucking losers.
I love our listeners if they crack up at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm stupid.
Because we're all like this. We all have these little bits of this in ourselves.
Yeah.
We've all been an imposter in some point of our life.
Sure.
We've all felt like we were the imposter not wanting to be, like we've all felt inadequacies. We've all felt, like I said, that we could die on this hill of bullshit. This is what I believe to be right and no one will ever change my mind. I'm always going to dress like this, Mom. I'm always going to listen to this music. And
we've all had to learn the hard way
to change me.
Right. We all weren't smart enough.
Yeah, we've all been there.
When someone was telling us something, we all had to fucking burn our hand on that hot stove.
Yeah.
And that's true.
Yeah.
I try to tell people, I don't think people have to be that way if they just trust the source enough, I guess.
Right.
I don't know. I do feel frustrated about things I've had to learn the hard way because I still learn them. Like God, who posted it? It was hilarious. It was something like, oh, is that you? The consequences to my own actions. Oh, it's the consequences.
Well.
Oh, yeah. If it isn't the consequences to my own actions.
Yeah, that's a Homer Simpson meme.
God, I love it. It's so true.
Yeah.
But it's like, 10 years later and I'm still dealing with it. Like I learned my lesson. I've sought to make it right. I don't repeat the same mistake. And it still fucking haunts me.
Yeah.
Still follows me. I can't. It sucks. That's what
and it's the hard thing with
home is all about, isn't it? You realize you can't go back.
Well, I really like to promote being like super self-aware, right? I think if people had more self-awareness, there would be a lot less bullshit in the world. But then I look
at disclaimer on that.
Well, but then I look why?
Because it's a very hard life.
Well, yeah, let me get into it.
Go ahead. You tell me.
As somebody who I believe that I am very self-aware, I've done lots of years of therapy, and I don't have to tell you why I'm self-aware. I'm just very self-aware. See what I mean? It's the same like imposter thing where
tell them what worked for you if they want to get to that point. Don't feel like therapy is a good thing.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, everybody should absolutely have some therapy.
I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to interrupt you. I want you to say what you want to say, but I don't want you to feel like you're being pompous or arrogant or anything by saying therapy.
Yeah.
But, I don't have to tell them. No, you don't. But I mean,
right. No, I get what you're saying.
You're not proving yourself by saying that, are you?
No. But I do believe that I am a very self-aware person. I wasn't always. It took a lot of the last probably 9 years of my life really figuring out who I was, and therapy did have a lot to do with that. Medication did have a lot to do with that, and supportive, healthy relationships in my life had a lot to do with me being able to become more self-aware. But the problem with being so self-aware is that when you're being irrational. I know when I can feel when I'm being too hard on myself. I can feel when I need to relax a little bit. I can tell myself, what you're saying to yourself and how you're feeling right now is irrational and it will pass and you will get through it. But the bottom line is it doesn't change the actual feeling or thought. It didn't make those thoughts go away. Those thoughts are still there. I still have them. I just have a different maybe way, like coping skill set.
Sure.
But that doesn't always work. So it's like, I believe I do probably have this imposter syndrome. I'm almost 100% sure I probably have this.
Right. And I think it goes back to the perfectionist, Sarah. That's why that's why you're saying there's a drawback, because you'll become self-aware and you'll realize you're still not perfect.
Right.
It's not a solution, but it's not to be perfect.
Yeah.
And
we had a little bit of a conversation like this when you were visiting last, and I was getting very like out there with these like silly alien belief things.
Chaos magic.
That I had chaos magic.
You were selling it hard.
I don't know if we'll ever do an episode on that because that's a tough one for me. But I love chaos magic. I love hearing about it and learning about it and thinking.
Let me ask you a question, honestly. Sorry to throw this at you live. Well, recording. Don't delete it.
It's okay. I'll just cut it out.
Be honest. Don't bullshit because we're recording.
Okay.
Promise?
I promise.
Okay. It's so stupid too. You probably think it's gonna be so profound. It's not. It's so selfish. But were you majority, not completely, were you mostly concerned with having that conversation with me because I am the rational one that reels you back in? Or are you not wanting to have that feeling period at all?
I don't want to have that feeling period or discussion at all.
Are you ashamed of it?
I am ashamed because I feel like I should know better.
Than to believe in supernatural things or chaos magic and
yes.
Okay.
I do know better. I should know better. I don't need to, be having this belief. But that's where, coming back to what I was saying, is you had said to me, like, why do you need the alien part? Why do you need the magic part? Can't you just see like how amazing this is on its own?
The reality is that we're on a fucking blue planet rock in the middle of a solar system, in the middle of a galaxy amongst billions of other galaxies in this by all accounts measurable infinite universe spinning so fast that if I drop this it'll hit the ground. Like that kind of science bullshit that I dropped. I meant that. Why? I want to know why
do you need more?
You and other people need something supernatural to be attached to that. Isn't that just that's measurable, that's observable, that's testable, that things are really
here's the thing.
reality.
is the more I read about Dunning-Kruger and the little bit that I read about imposter syndrome and the little conversations I've had with you and the husband and all that about these things, it brought me back to that conversation. And I think I can't say 100% because I haven't thought on it enough. This is a new thought that came today, and I will need a couple nights to sleep on it.
But go ahead, speculate.
But my speculation is that the belief in the things like the aliens and the chaos magic and the, conspiracy of that little thing that I like to talk about is that those beliefs are solely based on having to believe that there is something outside of your control that you don't understand, right? I can't possibly understand the full realm of chaos magic. Yeah, I just have to believe it.
So you're thinking that there's wonderful things you haven't thought of?
No, let me finish, you hoe. So
I'm such an asshole. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And so when you were saying, there's all of these like really beautiful, there's like real reality to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
The enormity of that science, the enormity of that, the specialty of all of those different kinds of scientists and all the different kinds of science and real work and studies and funding have had to go in to learning how the world works. For me to just sit down and try and learn and comprehend and understand those things is so overwhelming. I feel like I would never be able to tackle that subject. I'm not smart enough to understand how that works, right? But I am creative enough to think, yeah, maybe there is such a thing as magic. Maybe David Bowie did dabble in the occult. Maybe, there is aliens that are really, just controlling all of this for us.
Tangible. You can hold on to it. You can keep it in your brain for longer than a second before you're just like,
before I feel so overwhelmed by it, right? Sure. And I think a little bit of it is the fact that it is pretty silly. Right. And so in my head, I'm like, well, if I don't fully understand it, it doesn't matter because it's bullshit anyways. It's just fun to think about.
It's because you're a control freak.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, it's because you're a control freak and you don't listen. It's very humiliating, humbling thing to think about. But I'm going to tell you what, there isn't a moment I try to think about it and I don't feel completely overwhelmed. I have to stop thinking about it because if you think about it too much, you can't focus on your mundane life, like having to go to work and pay bills and do all these things because you realize how small and insignificant you are. However, it adds a perspective to all other facets of you as an individual partaking in a society on a planet.
Yeah.
Because we're so fucking crazy, killing everybody and doing all these fucking things and hating people for arbitrary reasons.
Yeah.
That we really think that it's all about us as humans, right? Or your religion tells you it is. And all facts point to otherwise. And it makes you feel really small and insignificant. So the first thing I felt when I did try to grapple these things and learn these things is exactly what you went through. I was terrified. I didn't want to focus on it. But when you swallow the bottle, what's at the bottom is liberation, which is why one of my favorite quotes is the thing about truth, whether it's hurtful or whatever, it's liberating.
Yeah.
And it makes everything easier because it's like you can get so caught up in your own head and your own drama and your own bullshit. And you've got plenty of options. Number one, go-to is there's always someone that has it worse that's less deserving of that stress and pain than you, right?
Yeah.
And then the other part of that is how small and insignificant we are. Just try to enjoy your day. You know what I mean? Enjoy what you have and do what you can. So, I mean, I get that, but don't feel like people who are aware of that, like Neil deGrasse Tyson or any of these guys, are any less trembling by that. They are.
Yeah.
It is rough. It is heavy stuff. And I can get why you and other people would be more into supernatural. I would say I'm more intrigued by that or excited by those things because I was really excited to have that conversation with you.
Yeah.
The reason I couldn't get there though is I wasn't ready for you to be the one feeling so strongly about that.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And I had to understand why someone I never thought would be like that is like that. When all I needed to do was think about exactly what I experience when I think about reality for real, right? And how overwhelming that is. And then I could completely understand. I'm so stupid. That's the reason.
I also think it's good to point out and say, like, that feeling that I got of like I can't possibly learn everything about the solar system and how we fit into that and why we are on this planet and all of that. I can't possibly learn all of that. I don't even know where the fuck to start. But I think the more important lesson out of that is like just fucking starting. You don't have to know, you don't have to be the expert.
Right. Well, we don't know.
We have experts.
Right. These are the things science can't answer. This is why science can't stand against religion strongly right now.
Yeah.
Because it could answer it. It could just make up something with no evidence and just counter religion with with religion's own method.
Yeah.
Right. That's not how science works.
Yeah.
You can observe it and reproduce it, or you can't.
Yeah.
And that's the end of it. And until you can, it's a theory or it's false if it's going to be proven wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And if it can't be proven wrong, but it can't be proven right, and then it's just a theory.
Yep.
But anyways, they don't know why we're here and all that stuff. But I like you saying that you can get on that first step, because I wouldn't want to solve all those problems with you. I'd like someone to just
know
think about it.
Yeah.
Just be like, how could this be? Like, how could
I think that's an easier approach to it than saying I need to know everything about this topic before I feel like I can have any type of say on it.
So you're also an expert.
Oh fuck.
So you're all five. Natural.
Oh man.
Soloist, expert. And the other one.
This is why I'm always exhausted.
Oh, that means the show's over, everybody. So if you were liking it, welcome to my world, where too bad you're gonna have to wait till I find time next week.
No. Yeah. What are we gonna talk about next week?
I have no idea. What do you want to talk about?
I think I'm gonna do a true crime.
Go ahead.
I don't know which one yet, but I think I'm gonna. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do a true crime next week.
I'll do a false crime.
Hey,
I'll just get you totally invested. And I'll be like, by the way, that never happened.
Made it all up.
Yeah, you just go like, what? I never saw this. What? It was on the news. Oh my God.
And if you say it confidently enough, I'll just believe you.
Exactly right. We're gonna fool Sarah. Now I'm gonna do true crime, and you're just gonna be like, we'll see. Doubt it.
Man.
Are you just bullshitting me? So what true crime are you gonna do? Or what are you thinking about possibly doing? We know you don't like to do spoils, but come on.
Well, I did want to look into that one about the lady who was just arrested for that crime she committed in 81, where she murdered her own child in 81.
She tossed it over an overpass or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and was never caught until just now this year. She's like an old woman now.
How the fuck is she existing? How is she living her life peacefully?
Well, that's what I hope I'm going to find out.
Or not exposed as a psychopath.
But, it hasn't gone to like prosecution or anything yet, so there might not be a whole lot of like evidence I can look at. You know what I mean?
Well, you can touch base.
Yeah, but maybe I can just do like a little, let everybody know what's going on. And then hopefully as the case progresses, I could, do updates and stuff like that.
You know what I'm excited about, true crime wise? Hulu's rendition of Gypsy Rose and her boyfriend killing her mom. The Munchausen by proxy syndrome.
When does that come out?
March something, I want to say. Fuck, what if it's already out? I want to say March 20th because, I'm not going to say when we're recording, but it hasn't come out yet. What's it called on Hulu?
Gypsy Rose.
The Act is what it's called. And I don't know when it releases. Yeah, March 20th. I was right.
Okay. So maybe I'll do that case. Do you know a lot about that case?
No.
Okay.
But I'm into it.
Good.
Like I know what Munchausen by proxy is because of that case.
Okay.
You know how it is. You're on Facebook, you click an article, it tells you like 2 paragraphs, which doesn't even get into it.
Right.
And you see this word, Munchausen by proxy. And you know me, I'm like, ooh.
I need to know what that is. Right.
I don't think you can
see like all of the murder and I'm like, ooh.
If you want to do that one, if you want to do that one, next recording, the day of the recording, because we record at night, you're gonna have to watch all of it.
No way. I don't need to watch.
Oh, you don't even want to. You don't even care about Hulu. You just want to do research and do it.
Yeah, cool. I already know the story. I can tell you it right now.
I want to watch it on Hulu because I want to hear it from you.
Yeah, and I think our episode will release before the movie, so that might be kind of cool.
What am I gonna do? Like I was thinking about doing Jodi Arias because I saw her at the jail and I worked at the jail, but I fucking hate her. I don't want to do it.
I don't know a whole lot about Munchausen by proxy.
So I'll do that part. God,
So,
I'm always
yeah.
Dana Scully. Every time. I'm not a bottom. I'm so pissed.
One of
I'm
these
not
days
wearing a
I'll
bra.
throw like a really good like alien topic at you. You'll just have to devil's advocate it for me and sell it to me, even though you completely do not believe it.
Oh, we have a role reversal episode.
Yeah, that would be great.
I try to convince you some bullshit.
Yeah.
And you're just like, nah.
No Alex Jones shit.
I feel like I do that anyway. I try
Yeah,
to convince you of things that you think is bullshit.
Yeah.
And you're just like, uh-huh.
Come
You're
at me
just
with
nice.
the alien conspiracy. I'll believe it right away.
Before I even get into it, you're like, I believe it.
Aliens, perfect. I believe.
Yep. Say no more, fam.
Right.
Sarah, we're only 5 minutes into recording. Fine.
So because I think that the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case, I do believe that does have a lot to do with Munchausen by proxy. That could be a really cool episode next week.
All right. So then I'll
take on the true crime aspect of it, and you can take on the psychological aspect of it. We'll bring it together, and I think that would be really entertaining.
Can you do it like kind of like you did Kai on the practice episode for people who want to see it? It's on Facebook. Is it on Instagram or just Facebook?
It's on Facebook.
YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah. On Facebook, you can just visit our page. This podcast sounds exhausting. Instagram, TPSE podcast.
Okay.
Or our webpage,
But do you know
exhausting.com.
That's our webpage?
Yeah. Or you can email us at thispodcastsoundsexhausting@gmail.com.
Listen, just put this podcast sounds exhausting wherever, and it'll probably get to us.
Yeah.
Because we're just tagging it everywhere.
Right.
But you remember Kai? You told the story. You said it with him driving with the guy, but you told it like a story.
Yeah.
I thought that was really good.
That's what I love to do. So that's what I'll do.
Think I need to shut the fuck up more.
No.
Yes. Because when you tell us, yes, I do, because you are so interesting and I need to shut the fuck up because I just am so used to having a conversation with you.
I know.
And I know I'm going to get the story and I know I'm going to
But I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose the entire aspect of that, of the conversation part of
I got to cut it down though. And the way to cut it down, help me.
Okay.
Help me, help myself, help you.
Okay.
That makes sense.
What do I do?
Telling a story, I'm going to be like a listener. I'm not even going to realize I'm on the show. You'll be like, so what do you think? I'm like, who? Oh, me.
Oh, me.
Yeah. But no, because you're pretty good at the storytelling. You think you can do that or is that too much? You already feel the pressure.
No, I don't feel the pressure at all because I love this part of it.
Yeah, cool.
And I love storytelling. I'm a big reader. I love doing research. I love writing. And so that part of it is exciting to me. Putting the pieces together and figuring out how I'm going to like tell the story. I'm excited about that. And I love like learning things. So I am interested to see how Munchausen by proxy can play into this. And I'm very interested in the fact that I don't have to do the research for it. You do.
And listen to me, your little story about you being whatever age, some young age, thinking about paying people to tell you everything. Let me tell you how smart my best friend is. Let me explain something to you people about how intelligent.
Oh,
You know the saying, work smart, not hard.
Yeah. Work smarter, not harder.
Let me tell you how smart she is. She went and married someone like that and then made me her best friend. Because we are absolutely your Google for that shit.
Exactly.
You're a cheater.
I know.
You circumvented the rules.
Yeah.
And it's a testament how cheap you are. Because you're like, how can I get that? But not
at a discount.
How can I get them to really love me and tell me how wonderful I am? I've got a great idea.
I know. My poor husband, every time I'm like, hey, can you show me how to like record our podcast? And he'll be like, yeah, come here. I'll show you how to do it. And then somehow I just magically like disappear from the room. like something happens where I'm like, oh yeah, I'll be right back. Just keep going. I'll be right back. And then like an hour later, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Is it ready? Are we good to
You're
go?
watching Bob's Burgers in the living room, stoned eating snacks.
And I've still never learned how to like open the program to fucking record this podcast.
Yeah, now because you're used to having that information to your fingertips, you exploit it.
That's the thing. You have to surround yourself with healthy, loving relationships. These people are healthy and they love me and they let me, get through my day the easiest way possible.
No shit. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. You already know what the next one's about.
Yeah,
so go do research if you don't know about it. Who doesn't know about Gypsy
Or
Rose?
don't do your research and just let
dumbass.
me tell you about it.
Let me tell you. So it'll be the best version.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Show your loyalty, listeners.
Right.
No research.
We'll
just
do
wait
this.
a week.
Yeah.
Unless you're smart and you're binge watching us 20 years in the future.
Or you really like true crime and you already know about this, but you'd like to hear my annoying voice tell you all about it.
And my obnoxious, witty remarks and comments about it. Well, I have one for these since you know more about it than I do. You think?
Oh, I'm sure.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening, and
we'll see you next week.
See you next one. Bye.
Bye.